Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Dr. Aftab Ahmed, with the program Innovative Pakistan with Dr. Aftab. And today we are going to discuss a very important topic, and that is biodiversity. You know, the world is facing a huge challenge of biodiversity loss, and that has very severe consequences. And the consequences we are facing in the form of climate change and many other, there are so many diseases which are coming and many other things that needed to be discussed. And to discuss all these things, we have Professor Dr. Shujaul Mulk Khan today with us in our studio. He is a very well-known professor, serving as a professor of plant sciences in Qaeda University, and he is also member of Pakistan Academy of Sciences. So thank you very much, Professor Shujaul Mulk Khan, for joining us today in the studio.
Thank you.
And we'll discuss definitely in detail about importance of biodiversity, and also the International Day of Biological Diversity is very much coming on 22nd of May. So we'll discuss about the day as well. Let's start with the discussion, and we start the discussion with the education of our guests. So let's talk about starting from the primary education till your PhD and postdoc. So can you enlighten us about your educational journey?
Thank you, Dr. Aftab. Thank you, Radio Pakistan Islamabad, and thank you for inviting me. So if I start from my primary education, I belong to Swat Valley. And Tehsil Matha, a very small village known as Shandal. A few people, 60 to 80 people live there.
Wow.
So I did my primary school from one teacher's school, government primary school, Chaturia, a close by school. And then I did my metric from government high school, Shawar, and we used to go by feet 3 kilometers every day and then back, so 6 kilometers by feet. And then I was position holder in the school. Then I did my FSC from Government Degree College Matta, Sawat, and then BSc from there. And I was a topper of the BSc program as well. So I was topper of BSc of all the colleges in Sawat in biological sciences. And then during when I taught the college and even the colleges of the Sawat district, our teachers took us to the Radio Pakistan Peshawar.
Okay, very interesting.
So that was the first in 2001. And then I did my MSc from Government Postgraduate Janzeb College Sawat, which is affiliated to University of Peshawar. And at that time, I was topper of Malakand division, and I was the third position holder in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the then Northwest Frontier Province and WFE. And at that time, we were having only Peshawar University and affiliated colleges of Abbottabad, Bannu, and Sawat. So the botany existed only in 4 different places. And then I did my MPhil from Hazara University during my job when I was lecturer in botany there from 2006 to 8. Then I went to UK on scholarship for PhD in University of Leicester, UK. And I did my PhD from University of Leicester. And there I was a nominee of the Best Thesis Award as well.
Wow, very nice.
So it was a very good thing for me that in such a big university, which was the world 89th at that time, such a position was a big prestige for me. And then I completed my 7 months postdoctorate in 2013. Then I came back, joined Hazara University, served there for 4 more years.
So you continued your postdoctoral after your PhD study in the same university?
In the same university, but a little different department from geography, because that postdoc was in the landscape management and biogeography.
Yes, that's actually I wanted to ask about your PhD, because you have just mentioned that you have the Best Thesis Award, and we just wanted to know more about your PhD work and also the postdoc.
And initially when we talk about the biodiversity, that is a good question. My PhD, I did my PhD in Naran Valley, Pakistan, and the biodiversity, especially the plant diversity in relation to environment and in relation to climate change, in relation to anthropogenic human pressures. So that was a very multidimensional sort of work. Before going to details of biodiversity, let me clear that why Naran. Naran is the place very important geographically. For example, it is the place which is at the junction point of Himalayas and Hindu Kush.
Okay.
Because till Indus River we have Himalayas from the east, and from Indus then to the west up to the Teen Shan mountains of Kazakhstan and Tajikistan,
Right.
we have the Hindu Kush mountains. So this was the junction point.
Right.
Geologically, we have plates, tectonic plates. So in the north we have Eurasian plate, from the south the Indian plate, and Naran Kaghan is called Naran Kaghan eclogite in that sense that it is a meeting place of Eurasian and Indian plate.
Right.
So it is very important place, and that's why my hypothesis was the ingredient or the transitional zone, which is in ecology called ecotonal zone. So it was ecotonal zone basically, because when we talk about the biodiversity in the plants, plant itself is nothing but it is the expression of the abiotic environment.
Okay.
I mean, soil is necessary, soil nutrients are necessary, and when we talk about soil and soil nutrient, then geography and geology is necessary. And then when plants come, the water is necessary. So at that point, we have the melting water. And again, it is a junction point of another phenomena, that is the monsoon and the monsoon free zone.
Okay.
So the monsoon finished at Kaghan, and the monsoon free zone started between Naran and Kaghan.
Okay.
So afterwards, it is the monsoon free zone. So in these two places, we have different kinds of plants, and then different kinds of animals, microbes, different kind of biodiversity actually. So that was
Very
the
interesting.
point. Yes.
So that was like part of your PhD, and what was your focus in your postdoctoral studies?
Yes, and in the postdoctorate, then I focus on biogeography or phytogeography. When we talk about biogeography, with the special emphasis on the conservation of endemic plants.
Right.
Now, let me explain to my audience, because everyone is not a botanist, that what are the endemic. So the word endemic is restricted, means restricted. Those plants which are restricted to a place, they are called endemic to that part.
Okay.
So my focus in postdoctorate was to understand the endemic plants which exist in Naran Valley, but they exist in the world 3 mountain systems only, the top 3 mountain, the Hindu Kush, Himalayas and Karakoram.
Okay.
So there were 64 endemic plants in Naran Kaghan Valley which I focused, and even now I'm working with my Chinese counterparts in a joint project, Pakistan Science Foundation and National Science Foundation China, about 10 of those 64 endemic plants, which are very important in terms of biodiversity.
So I'm sure that you are the very right person to talk about the biodiversity, and we have just listened about your education journey, and that is really very interesting. Like you have started from a primary school where there was a single teacher, and your journey, like you have done different degree programs in different colleges, and then your PhD was from UK, and also you have done the postdoc from the UK. So even like it's very interesting for our listeners that even you can have a very humble start from a very from a government school, and you can go up to like on scholarship you can complete your PhD and postdoctoral studies. That's really interesting. And now we come towards your career journey. So you have mentioned that you have started your teaching after your MSc in Hazara University. So like you are a professor now, so what is your professional journey from there?
Yes, well, before Hazara University, I was a lecturer in college for 9 months on the commission, Public Service Commission, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, NWP that time. And then later on in 2006, I become lecturer on contract, and then in 7 permanent, then went abroad for my study, then came back, joined there, and then I joined Quaid-e-Azam University in 2015 as an assistant professor on tenure track system. And you know that Quaid-e-Azam University is the #1 university in terms of research in Pakistan, so it was the best place for me.
Right.
And I felt like that time when I was in UK for my study. So after 2015, we have published a lot of research papers for scientific community, which include the papers on plant communities, plants environment relationship, population ecology, community ecology, pollution ecology, conservation of plants, climate change. We also publish on ethnoecology, because at the same time when human exert pressure, we need to understand that why human exert pressure on plants and biodiversity.
Right.
And then if they care about them, then we also document, we also analyze, and we also try to reach all those minor and minute details, that what is the force behind these forces, the human forces who utilize these plants. And in that journey, I became in 2000, well, let me finish the career first, that in 2020, I became associate professor.
Right.
In the meanwhile, by the end of 2019, I became the member Pakistan Academy of Science, and you understand that we are only 32 or 36 members under 40. They select for 10 years. There's a long process, so it is quite competitive. So I was lucky enough to become member in 2019, and afterwards in 2020 I become associate professor, tenured, and then last year in August 2024 I become the tenured professor as well. And 2-3 things I didn't mention, but let me mention that I work as an adjunct faculty member in University of Gastronomic Sciences, Italy, since 2014, and the part which I mentioned at the end, the ethnoecology. And from 2022 I also visit Kazakhstan as a visiting scientist as well. So we have some collaborative work on biodiversity with Kazakh government, with Italian government, with Portuguese government as well, which I'm planning next year to visit them, and with the Chinese government. And China, there is Kunming Institute of Botany, very famous institute. And when we talk about the biodiversity, I will come later on to the CBD, Convention on Biodiversity. So there is a slogan of this year, which is on the Kunming Institute Botany COP, which held in 2022 or 2023, based on that. So I have my collaborator from Kunming Institute of Botany as well. And at the same time, I think one thing related to my career which need to be mentioned, that I serve as a president of International Society of Ethnobiology these days. I was vice president since 2022 to 2024. We organize a conference of 18th conference where 77 countries were participants in Morocco last year, 2024, in May. And as a president, I will organize, my team will organize in Cairns, Australia in July 2024. The impact of anthropogenic pressure, the ethnoecology and the biodiversity. That will be the 19th Congress. And let me mention that I'm, for the first time, the first Asian president. So
very nice.
that is also...
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
It's a big organization, like there are members from 77 countries and you are serving as president. It's definitely an honor for Pakistan as well. So like you have worked in different countries. So before like talking in detail about the biodiversity and the importance of biodiversity, so you have worked in like in Hazara University, and you have worked in Qatar University where you are like serving as a professor, and you have worked in UK, you are like adjunct faculty in Italy, you've been to China several times. Like I often see from your social media that you're traveling to different places and delivering talks and lectures and plenary talks in different universities around the world. So in terms of culture, like I have seen that recently China is making a lot of progress in terms of research output and research progress. So overall, if you compare different countries, like the research culture in Pakistan and also the universities in which like you have worked and visited, so if you give it like a bit of comparison of these universities and your own experience and any like highlight that you would like to give about China and about UK.
Thank you, Aftab. So a very good question and very, I can say, debatable, but I will not go to the details. But if I take the example from my visit, 21 different countries, but for research purposes, maybe 10 or 12, I can say that we have quite good research culture in Pakistan. The only lake, which I would say, for example, there is no continuity in policies. We have discussed it at the Pakistan Academy of Science level. We have talked to General Secretary, Pakistan Academy of Science. Last time we were with the Planning Commission Minister, Hassan Iqbal Saab. We discussed with them.
Okay.
There, the political setup shouldn't suffer, shouldn't affect the policies.
Right.
If some governments start the policy, so irrespective of change of the political government, that policy should be adopted by the state,
Right.
because it is for the science, it is for the betterment of science and ultimately human and humanity and globe and earth and biodiversity, etc., etc. So one, there is a continuity of policies in the other countries. You know the model in the communist countries, for example, China, Russia, Kazakhstan. They have the same government, so there is
Right.
no need of such thing. But even in developed nations like developed and democratic nations like Italy, UK, and the countries like that, Australia,
Right.
or Norway, where I have been to, if even the government change, the policy continues.
Right.
The second point is the finances. When we have prepared such a big chunk of PhDs, maybe you people, we people, they went and got the very best training from the best institution of the world.
Right.
And Dr. Ataur Rahman Saab and that government was having a very great vision. But when the people came back, there was no seed money
Right.
for them to continue that research, because research is one of the very prices, or I mean, not very cheaper business. It is
It
very
need lot of
expensive.
money, yeah,
It need,
definitely.
it need a money. So yes, we are developing nation, but we should prioritize our research. And when we compare, you asked about the culture as well. When we compare the cultures or the biodiversity, Pakistan is the country, and there are very few countries. I mentioned Naran, geography, geology, monsoon, these mix.
Right.
These are so broadly phytogeographically, when plants and geography mix, that is called phytogeography or biogeography. Biogeographically, only few countries like India, Afghanistan, China, Pakistan, and Iran,
Right.
and maybe Turkey, and like UAE and Syria and few Mediterranean countries. These are few in the world
Right.
which host both holoarctic kind of condition and paleotropical. So because I'm educating for the biodiversity part, not the general science,
Right.
so when we talk about the biodiversity, these two countries host the holoarctic and paleotropical elements of the world.
Right.
And they are very few. I mean, when you go to Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they are holoarctic, whole Europe, whole North Europe,
Right.
North America. Whole Africa, South America, they are paleotropical, for example.
Okay.
But these countries which I named around the third pole, these mountain systems, they are very special in terms of biodiversity. And we will talk later on about the importance of that biodiversity, but we need to focus on these priority region as well.
That's excellent. So thank you very much for explaining it. And this is like in our discussion, we often talk about these topics because, as you have mentioned, that the two things are very important. One is the continuity of the policies. That's very important if we have to make the progress. Another is the funding. So we need a lot of funding to do better research in Pakistan, and we should allocate more resources. And this is what we also like do the lobbying for our researchers and universities, that we should put more like emphasis and put more money in the funding. So now let's come towards the biodiversity. So as we have learned over the years that there is a great decline in biodiversity, not only on the plant side but also on the animal side. So I was like going through a report that from 1970 till 2016, so in just a very short span of time, there is a 58% loss of biodiversity in the world. So first enlighten us about the importance of biodiversity and what will be the consequences if we lose this biodiversity.
Thank you, Aftab sir. Okay, first let's start from the importance of biodiversity. When we talk about biodiversity, bio means life, diversity means types.
Okay.
So there are types of diversity. And when we talk about types, we start from microbiology. Those organisms which cannot be seen with our naked eyes.
Right.
We use microscope and other tools, characterization. They are also biodiversity.
Right.
When we come up from and there are trillions of microorganisms. And when we come up from the microorganism, the bacteria, then the category fungi come. And if we go to the details of the first category, like the bacteria, phosphorus, sulfur, nitrifying, denitrifying, nodulated, so many kinds of bacteria. So I'm not going to those technical details. But that is important biodiversity which fix for us, because human is very greedy when we talk about us and we talk about humans.
Right.
But those microorganisms fix nitrogen in all those food cycle, nutrient cycle, water cycle, carbon dioxide and gaseous cycles, not only for humans but for other biodiversity, the macroorganism.
Right.
Then the second category is fungi. Fungi is very important in terms of decomposition,
Right.
because plants have mycorrhizal association. So our pinus trees, our crops, some of them, they cannot grow without fungi in the soil. So
Okay.
they are important. And fungi and bacteria also help in synthesizing medicine. That is your field, I think. That how they help in synthesizing the medicines, the
Right.
antibiotics, and all those penicillium from fungi and the thing like that. And then the third category is algae, the water biodiversity.
Right.
Algae is important for cosmetics, algae is important for oxygen in the ocean or aquatic ecosystem, algae is important for fuel or in green energy, etc.
Definitely.
And above the algae we have the non-flowering plants, and then we have the flowering plants.
Okay.
And there are 600,000, 6 lakh flowering plants,
Wow.
which are important. And when we talk about the importance of those plants, these plants give us food, they give us medicine
Okay.
directly, or they are the first derivative of the medicine before the synthetic synthesis of the plants, the medicines. And then the plants gives us oxygen, which we inhale in the process of photosynthesis. They also absorb carbon dioxide.
Okay.
And we already have the climate change. And when you mentioned during your question that for the last 60 years we have lost some 60%.
Almost 60% biodiversity.
It could be a little plagiarized, I don't know, because I haven't, but at least we have lost a considerable amount of biodiversity.
Right.
And when we talk about a considerable amount, why? It was due to the rise in temperature.
Okay.
It was due to pollution. It was due to human activities,
Okay.
urbanization, industrialization, agriculture expansion, collection for food.
Okay.
But the main reason I'm coming back to the carbon dioxide level, that the plants, especially the higher plants, the forests,
Okay.
they gymnosperm because they are evergreen. And when we talk about the carbon dioxide sequestration and absorption, we should focus on the evergreen plants.
Okay.
And our gymnosperms are the evergreen. They live on the top of the mountains
Okay.
and generally on the poles of the earth. And there are scientific phenomena that carbon dioxide and these gases generally go up in the atmosphere up to a certain level due to their low weight and gaseous nature.
Right.
So the evergreen gymnosperm absorb carbon dioxide for us, clean our air, and when it clean our air, the greenhouse gas decrease in the atmosphere, and when the greenhouse gas decreases, the temperature decreases.
Right.
So this loss was partly from the overconsumption, but mainly it was from the rise in temperature,
Okay.
which caused the decline in biodiversity. And I will go to another segment, animal biodiversity. So there are millions of animals, more than 8 million animal types, more than half, more than 5 millions are insects. So these days we have, for example, our broiler industry, and we have the soybean, the proteinaceous feed problem in Pakistan.
Right.
And the Pakistani scientists are thinking to take this proteinaceous feed from insects for our broiler or for poultry industry. So that is also a very huge biodiversity. It can be utilized for human. Again, when we talk about the human, a little bit greedy species we are,
Right.
but we should utilize sustainably. So this is the biodiversity, and this is its importance. But one more importance in terms of especially plants, microbes, and fungi. They, due to rapid urbanization and industrialization, we also throw our waste not only to water and soil in forms of plastic, microplastic, and heavy metals, but we also throw it through the atmosphere in the form of dust. For example, the fog.
Right.
So again, the biodiversity can be used to phytoremediate, mycoremediate, or bioremediate those hazardous materials from the atmosphere, from the hydrosphere, and from the lithosphere. So that is another side of the importance of biodiversity.
Okay, so there is, like, as you have mentioned, and you have like very beautifully explained, starting from the microorganism till you have moved like from microorganism, then we have gone towards like fungi, and then algae, and then to the plants, and then to the animals, and you have beautifully explained that what are the main factors which are actually causing loss of this biodiversity. So talking about specifically about Pakistan, so what do you think are the main reasons of loss of this biodiversity in our country?
If we talk only about Pakistan, it is not the phenomena only linked to Pakistan. When we talk about the biodiversity, yes, the human factor is there. We are fastly growing population in the world. So one is the rise in population, directly or indirectly. When we rise the number of individuals, we need more cities, more villages, more land for food. Then when we talk about the diversity, the types, we decrease the types to few crops. We need croplands, so we cut the forest, diversity decrease. When we cut the forest with one tree, there are thousands of bacteria. In the rhizosphere, in the leaf, in the form of endophytes, in the flower, the pollinator animals, the birds, the nest on the plant, and so many. So with one tree we destroy so many diversity. So one is that, but as I mentioned, one is not linked to Pakistan. For example, the rise in temperature
and the rise of CO2. So that's a global phenomenon.
That is a global phenomenon. And the global phenomena, Pakistan contribution is less than 1%, 0.1% maybe. We contribute to the atmosphere. But the fastly developed nation or developing nations like our wet powers, our industrial nations of Europe, North America, Far East Asia, Japan, Korea, China, and South American like even Brazil. India is also fastly growing industrial nation. They contribute a lot. But initially, when these mountain system, which I talked initially about those mountains, Karakoram, Himalayas, and Hindu Kush, they are and they were the source of water, the source of rivers. And last week we have seen the tension between Pakistan and India, not the tension, rather it was a war. So it was due to the water problem. But now what is happening? These high mountains, when they are stopping, the monsoon winds come from Indian Ocean, they stop them and they cause the rainfall. And in the winter they stop the Siberian winds and cause snowfall from the west coming winds. What is going on? When the temperature is rising, they're melting rapidly. They cause glaciation. They cause sliding. They cause flooding. And when they flood downstream in our plain area, Indus Plain, Upper Indus, Lower Indus, they also cause the deposition on the soil. They cause damages to our cities, our lands, and so on. So Pakistan is suffering from so many things due to these high mountains, and that's why, according to the global index, we are the top or the second susceptible country. 4 years ago, we were on top 5 susceptible countries. But this year report says we are in the top 2 susceptible countries alongside China and India and Pakistan. We are the top three due to these high mountains and heavy snow around us.
Right.
So-
So if we we have short time now because we have to go for the news break, and before that, if we can have like two more things to discuss. One is like how we can restore the biodiversity. So what especially in terms of Pakistan, so what we should do that we can have improve the biodiversity in our country. This is a topic I think it take another program, so definitely
Yes.
we'll invite you and we'll discuss in depth. But if we quickly have to
Exactly. I would say I need a complete day to explain, but let be a quick solution. At least we should zonate our country. We should have
Right.
proper zones. Pakistan haven't developed very proper zones. We cut our mango trees and we
Right.
develop our housing societies.
Okay.
We should think about this because the gardens, the economic crops are the biodiversity.
Right.
So we should start from those where we need to develop our city,
Okay.
where we need our agricultural land. And in the second phase, we need to divide that which kind of plants can be planted in which kind of places. And when we develop
Right.
plants, the other biodiversity automatically develop. The animals and the microbes develop with plants because plants are producers. So if I remain very short, I think sometime, for example, in the billion tree tsunami, one of the government tried, the last government, that was very good and successful in many places. But again, there were a lot of mistakes. That those plants which were supposed to be grown in Islamabad, they were tried to grown in Naran Kagan, in Sawat, in Kumrat. So we need to take help from the relevant scientists,
Right.
the relevant experts. And one more thing that we need to conserve our existing biodiversity.
Right.
Because some of the plants, initially I talk about the endemic plants. Himalaya, Hindu Kush are famous for these.
Right.
If we don't conserve these endemics and when we lose them, we don't have these plants, animals or microbes anywhere in the world.
Right.
So we will lose them forever. So we should prioritize. So let me summarize in three ways. We should prioritize the biodiversity, which to be first, second, and third. We should prioritize our zones, which should be per plants and for which plants.
Okay.
Who should be where and what should be where.
Okay.
And third, we should think about, due to this increasing population, about our newly developed cities, where we have to develop these cities.
So you have beautifully summarized, and definitely will invite you once again to talk in detail that how we can conserve the biodiversity in Pakistan, because that's very, very important for our country, for the survival of people. The biodiversity is definitely needed to produce medicine, as you have mentioned, and in many other sectors as well. So briefly, because on 22nd is International Day of Biological Diversity, so what will be your message with reference to that day?
I should be brief, but I was preparing because we have in Qaid-e-Azam University a program on biodiversity. You are also welcome there.
Okay, thank you.
So I was preparing some slides for that yesterday, and I was looking that we have 22nd March World Water Day, we have 22nd April World Earth Day, because Earth is important for biodiversity, then water is important for biodiversity,
Right.
and then the biodiversity. So the biodiversity message is, according to an estimate, if we shouldn't stop and reverse our actions of all those I mentioned, industrialization, population, by 2030, we will increase the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere from 480 part per million. And once it reaches up to 500 part per million,
Right.
the human are not able to restore the carbon dioxide level to the permissible limit. And that's why we need to think now or never, because I sometimes teach to my students that when the dinosaurs disappeared, the carbon dioxide level was 760 part per million.
Okay.
So we are going for the 6 mass extinction. So the simple message, now or never.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Shajaul Mulk, for joining us today in the studio. So we'll continue this discussion, and the message very important is time for the action, and we have to act now. So we'll continue discussion after the news break. Stay tuned with us.
Thank you.